Tiny ITX systems have always been a real passion of mine. So for this video, I wanted to make the smallest, most powerful 4070 gaming build I could. So this tiny PC can fit in the palm of your hand. You can take it anywhere easily, yet it boasts a full RTX 4070 GPU and Ryzen's best gaming chip, the 7800X3D. And despite being less than 5.5 litres with its internal power supply, I can game for hours at my desk without ear-splitting noise or extreme heat. Or I could throw it in a bag and take it to a friend's for some mobile gaming sessions. Whilst it isn't as easy to transport as a gaming laptop, it's much more comfortable gaming on a mechanical keyboard than a gaming laptop keyboard, and I don't have to listen to a gaming laptop's fans roaring. But building this one took some serious planning, so let's take a look at how we go about it. And I want to start with this case, because in order to make this build possible, I need to buy all of my components specifically to fit in it. And for this build, I've used the Densest 4 Plus V2, a truly tiny PC case at 5.49 litres with a beautiful wood front fascia, incredible build quality, a front USB-C port, and good airflow. Now this case isn't cheap at £168 in the UK, and that doesn't even include the riser cable. But this case allows for GPUs up to a maximum of 222mm. Now there was only one RTX 4070 with dimensions close enough to fit, and that is the Zotac 4070 dual fan. This card comes in at an incredibly compact 225mm and 2-slot thick. Now this did mean that I either needed to Dremel the slightly out the front of the case or deshroud the fans from the card to get it to fit. Now fortunately, deshrouding this graphics card is very easy with the Zotac model, and allows me to use fans of my choice, which will be much quieter than the stock fans. So that's what we're going to do today. Obviously, a tiny case like this is going to need an ITX motherboard. And as we want to use the Ryzen 7800X3D, we needed to use my favourite B650 ITX board, the ROG B650E-I. It's a great looking board with two M.2 slots, a good BIOS, and it's been rock solid in use. So first things first, we're going to insert our CPU into the socket and lock it down. Now we've removed the original AMD heatsink mechanisms to install our low profile Noctua L9 cooler. We needed to get this under 44mm for the heatsink, and there wasn't many options available, but having used the L9 many times in the past, I'm always impressed with just how well this tiny little cooler works. So let's get some paste on the CPU and place that L9A on top of the actual processor tightly whilst inserting the mounting screws from the rear. Now this is pretty fiddly as you cannot easily line up the screws, but once I have one in place, the rest were reasonably straightforward. So with the heatsink screwed into place, just plug in the fan connector. For the actual SSD, I'm going to install a fast 2TB M.2 into the primary connector. Now I've used the Western Digital SN850X. It's a good price considering it's one of the faster Gen 4 drives with 5 years warranty, and I've always been really pleased with this drive. Now there is also another M.2 slot on the back of the motherboard. So you do need to install this if you're going to use a second M.2 drive, because once it's installed into the case, you're not going to easily get to it. And lastly, for this motherboard build, we need to add in the RAM. And for this, we've chosen the Kingston Fury 32GB 6000MHz DDR5 kit. Now you can buy this RAM with or without RGB, but for this actual build, we wanted to go for a more subdued and clean look. So we've gone for the non-RGB version, and 6000MHz is the sweet spot for these Ryzen processors. Now with the motherboard built up, it's time to start building it into the case. But firstly, I want to do a quick thank you to Flexispot, who have kindly sent us over a standing desk for our PC building setup area. Being able to adjust the desk height is going to make building our PCs so much easier. Now they've sent us over the E7 Pro, which was incredibly easy to put together, but wow, this thing is heavy, so make sure you get yourself a Gary to help you lift it into place once it's built. It has individual motors in each leg, giving it an incredible 160kg weight load, meaning I can build even the densest ITX PC and still raise it up and down to marvel at it. Plus, this is one sturdy looking desk, meaning there's no wobble, so hopefully this is going to give us some incredible B-roll opportunities for future builds. The height adjustment is smooth, plus you can have a couple of memorized height positions to make it easy to switch between sitting and standing modes. And talk about standing, I do often like to work while standing at the desk. I'm not one for sitting at the desk for hours on end, and by standing there are a number of health benefits such as reduced back pain, improved circulation, and a boost in energy levels. And for me personally, being up and about just makes me feel like I've got a lot more freedom. Now this E7 Pro is actually very reasonably priced and also gives you 10 years warranty for peace of mind. Now Flexispot are having an 8th anniversary sale in August, so make sure you click on the link down below and grab yourself a bargain and take full advantage of this offer now. So let's get back to the actual case build. And this Densium, despite being very tiny, is actually pretty easy to work in. First we take off the side panels, then we remove the inner spine. From here we install the motherboard with its 4 screws and add the riser cable and screw that down at the rear. Now with the riser cable in place, we can now install the graphics card. As I'm going to be using desktop fans, I needed a tiny little cable to convert the graphics card fan header to desktop fans. And I'm going to link this down below for anyone else that wants to deshroud their graphics card. And also I'm going to link all the other products in this video down below so that you can build along with us. And also anything you buy from these links does give us a very small kickback at no cost to you and helps keep this channel running. And if deshrouding the graphics card does seem too complicated, there are many 3060s and 4060 graphics cards that are compact enough to fit in this case. As an example, I've got here an Asus 3060 Ti dual fan model. It's absolutely tiny and will go in without any modification. But the performance increase from a 4060 to a 4070 is significant. And as I often play on a 1440p ultra-wide monitor, I need as much power as I can get. And this 4070 really does the job of cutting through my favourite games, such as the Finals, Battlefield 2042, Apex, and Call of Duty, all running at 3440 by 1440p at max settings. So with the spine complete, we can now slide it back into the case, screw that spine in, and secure the graphics card. Now to power this PC, we're going to need a Flex ATX PSU. Now these are expensive, but a necessity due to the size constraints of a tiny PC case. Now we've used the Silverstone FX600, a 600 watt quiet PSU, but you could also use the enhanced ENP7660, which is also a great option depending on which is cheaper in your region. We need to attach the 4 magnets to the base of the PSU and slide it into the case. We then attach 2 rear screws. Once we've screwed it in, we plug in the motherboard power connectors and then spin it round and plug in the GPU power connectors. Now we now need to attach the wooden front fascia. Now the panel does need to have the button and the USB-C cable installed into the actual panel itself and then the frame to be screwed on before we attach it back to the case. We then connect the USB-C and the power button onto the motherboard and screw that front panel down. We lastly tidy the cables away and screw on the side panel onto the motherboard side of the case. We then flip it over. We're going to now install 2 notcher fans onto this GPU and connect it to the fan cables. And it's such a tight fit between the side panel and these fans, it actually uses friction to hold these fans in place over the graphics card. Now you could zip tie these on if you're uncomfortable with that, but the friction is tight enough that they're not going anywhere. And that is our PC built, so let's go over and add it to my gaming setup. Now I want to mention that out of the box, gaming at max settings at my 3440 by 1440 OLED monitor, the fans were coming in at about 46 decibels on my meter. Now this isn't bad at all and certainly a lot quieter than laptops. But with a quick undervolt of my GPU, keeping the clocks the same but running at 0.95 millivolts, the PC became whisper quiet. With regards to the CPU, the 7800X3D is such an efficient CPU that although we didn't need to actually do anything, we did adjust that PBO to -20. This improved the temperature slightly and also dropped the fan speed. And when you have a PC this small, the cooler the quieter it is, the better, as they're usually sitting right next to you. So there we have it, my tiny 4070 ITX build. I'm just so happy with the way this has turned out. And carrying it from home to my office is going to be really easy. Now as always, I'd love to know your thoughts on this build. And also if you have any suggestions for build that you'd like to see, as we're always looking for new ideas, pop it in the comment section down below and I will get back to you. And as always, thanks for watching.